Hi, it's Lerald, and I'm going to talk about how to set yourself up for success in the endgame at League Start as you are pushing toward getting your first 2 Void Stones and having a good league. But before I do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, first off, GGG has made a small but very important change to Act 2 in this league. The Bandit rewards have been changed. All of the Bandit rewards have been nerfed, but they've made it so that you get 1 passive point by completing the Golden Hand quest in Act 2, and then you only get 1 passive point from killing all of the bandits for Aramir. Oak grants 40 life and nothing else, Alira grants 15 all-res and nothing else, and Creighton grants 8% increased move speed. For me, I would take the move speed. For softcore, I think for hardcore you probably take the life, and then maybe the all-res is an option as well, probably the life though. Now, obviously, this means you're going to be down 1 passive point, but that is temporary. You can use the extra move speed and the 1 passive point for the first couple days of the league, and then go to a vendor and sell them 20 regret orbs and an onyx amulet, like I'm doing right here, and that will give you this Book of Reform, which you can then use. You buy it, you right-click it, and then you get the Aramir reward instead. Regrets are still in the game. We are able to respec with gold or regrets in the next league. GGG has confirmed this in their randomly asked questions FAQ. So depending on how quickly you progress through the campaign and how much time you spent along the way stopping and killing dudes, you may be anywhere from level 60 to 72 when you kill Kitava. The thing with tier 1 maps is that they are zone level 68, and while that doesn't mean you need to be level 68 to do them, it is kind of a decent rule of thumb. If you're a little bit over that, that's okay, but if you're under that, a good way to get a little bit of extra XP early, not just get shredded in maps, is to run Blood Aqueducts for a while. So Blood Aqueducts is here in Act 9. You could also do the Quarry. These are both fine zones, and you click to travel to them, you run them, you know how to play Path of Exile. If you want to open up a second version, you've run through the Blood Aqueducts and you want to open it up again and run through it again, you hold Control and you click, and then that will open this menu that allows you to open a new instance of the same area. You open a new instance, and then you can clear it again. Blood Aqueducts and the Quarry are both essentially just tier 0 maps, so you can do whichever layout you prefer, whatever kind of works out better for your build. Blood Aqueducts, as you can see, is a big old straight line that you can zoom through, and the Quarry is sort of more a kind of a big square that you start in the middle of that you can clear around in either direction. This is a good way to start getting some XP and farming up some very, very basic rare gear before you even hit maps. And on that note, from the moment that you hit Act 9 onward, you should start picking up all the rare items you see so that you can use them in the Chaos recipe. In order to do the Chaos recipe, you just sell a full set of armor to a vendor, and that would be helm, chest, weapon. You can do either 1 2-hander or 2 1-handers, but quivers and shields aren't necessary. Boots, belt, rings, amulet, gloves, the whole shebang. Full set of armor, right? Those rares all need to be at least item level 60 in order to give a Chaos Orb. If they're all item level 75 and above, then it will be a Regal Orb instead, and that's quite a lot less worthwhile. Now, if I'm just zooming through, I'm not going to stop and go back to town to dump my inventory as soon as it hits full while I'm doing the Chaos recipe. I will just take any rare items that I have, throw them into a random dump tab once I go back to town, and then kind of repeat that every single time. Doing the Chaos recipe isn't very fun. I do not like it, but it will net you a handful of extra chaos in the early parts of a league, and that bit of extra chaos can be the difference between buying important unique items several hours earlier and just kind of propelling yourself to a lot more success very quickly. Now, because the Chaos recipe cuts off once all the items in the trade are item level 75 and up, I wouldn't do the Chaos recipe after day 2 of the league. The value of Chaos Orbs diminishes. You can stop anytime you like. You don't have to do it at all, but I would definitely do it initially and then stop by the time I hit whatever tier of maps it is, sometime in low, mid-tier yellow maps where Chaos Orbs are no longer the reward from all the rares that drop. That's a good time to stop. All right, next important note is when should you do Heist and Sanctum? So a lot of people will do Heist or Sanctum before they actually kill Kitava in Act 10. They'll do everything up to Kitava, they'll do their third ascendancy, all of that. They're just about to kill Kitava and start mapping, and then they'll pull an audible and go run Heist or Sanctum for several hours. This is a Captain Lance strategy. Rush to do Sanctum, right? And it's very profitable if you're comfortable doing it. It's a very good, safe approach. Doing it without having killed Kitava first means that you're not getting that extra -30 resistance, which just really helps out for gearing at League Start. You can always double back to doing heists if you feel that you stall out at any point in the mapping process. Maybe you are having trouble with like getting your enough currency to craft gear or buy upgrades or whatever. Heist is always there. Good one to go back and kind of kickstart your Atlas progression rolling again. Now, in the past, you might see, if you see some old guides talking about endless heist. This is a thing that people could do. They could come to Fakano, the barber, and they could buy all of his contracts, which he does sell. They're Orb of Chance each for the most part. Sometimes there'll be an Orb of Alchemy. This is something you can do when you're approaching the like mid to late 60s, 64 to 67, something like that. You can buy his contract. This used to be possible to like refresh his list of contracts over and over again by changing your level. You know, you would level up and then use an item that's no longer in the game to de-level, and that item's no longer in the game. So that's just not really something you can do, and it's fine, right? The point of Heist is if you're doing no investment in it, if you're doing some sort of more normal strategy, you can come run Heist a little bit before you kill Kitava, go do regular mapping. Maybe you never come back to Heist, or maybe you do spend some time in here just to get a little bit of like a handful of random currency. Now, once you are at the level where you feel ready to step into maps, you should take Kirac's tier 1 map and get into it. As for when you're ready, that's really up to you. The main goal here is just to have some level of life and resistances on your gear so you don't instantly get shredded the moment you fight 2 rare mobs at once in a tier 1 map. You do want to be sure to use the crafting bench to help get your resistances and stats fixed up as you're kind of heading into maps as well. From there, you want to progress through the Atlas quickly, just clearing through maps quickly, doing the highest tier of map available at all points, making sure it's rolled up so that you'll get the bonus objective for it. So that's magic for white tier maps, rare for yellow tier maps, and then rare and corrupted for red tier maps. And, you know, that's pretty much all that there really is to mapping. The main goal is to kind of to clear enough to at least find one map of a higher tier and kill the map boss so that you get that Atlas progression and the Atlas tree point, of course. Now, because you need to roll the maps very slightly, you know, it's pretty easy to get enough transmute orbs to magic up all of your white maps. But doing that little bit of heisting early on will give you a good supply of Alch orbs and Vol orbs to be able to roll up your yellow and red tier maps. Also, chisels will be a lot more usable in the coming league. They have made it so that white tier maps will only take 1 chisel to hit them all the way up to 20%, regardless of whether it is white rarity, magic rarity, or rare rarity. And rarity is not going to have any sort of impact on how many chisels it takes. And so it's 1 chisel to hit 20% on a white tier map, 2 on a yellow tier map, and 4 on a red tier map. So chisels will be a lot more easy to justify using while doing the early part of post-campaign mapping. So with that being said, now I kind of want to talk about the Atlas passive tree that I like to use initially so I can consistently smoothly progress into high tier maps and pursue the Eater and Exarch and get the first 2 Void Stones. So this is sort of the end result of what I'm going for after about 40 something maps. And just to kind of show the progression that I would do through it and talk about why, I'll start off just by coming straight up the gut here. Now, if you're a betrayal enjoyer, which I am, you can just come over here and take the 3 points here, 10, 10, and 20, to give yourself a 40% extra chance to have Jun in all your maps. It'll slow you down by just a couple of maps in terms of getting all this map sustain. I do kind of think it's worth it, so for me, my start might actually look more like this, coming over and taking the Jun stuff first. But anyhow, what your goal really is here is to come over here and take all of these nodes on the right-hand side. Now, the notables for Kirac are actually very bad. They're all, you know, expert reconnaissance and expect the unexpected. All the stuff pertaining to scouting reports is mostly worthless. But the small Kirac mission chance passives are good. This gives you 8% chance to get Kirac missions whenever you complete a map. Then Commissioned Officer bumps that up to 14%. You can also take Shaping the World to give yourself a higher chance of getting additional connected maps and for maps to drop higher. From there, I then like to take Shaping the Mountains and more Kirac mission chance. Again, the notable from Kirac is pretty bad, so I'm going to skip that, but the Kirac mission chance is really useful. And then I'm going to do the same on the opposite side, take Shaping the Skies and more Kirac mission chance. And then there we go. We've got ourselves our little opening setup for the first handful of levels. And then once you've done that, you just kind of want to fill out these small higher tier map chance nodes. And there's not really any difference between overloaded circuits and bold undertakings. We're not making use of either of them. But if at any point you did want to use Atlas passive skills, or I should say league mechanics, overloaded circuits, The first time you get to use the League mechanic, it's free, and this will still work. It'll double the cost from free to still free, so you could go through overloaded circuits for a very tiny bit of juice early on, but bold undertakings is you're probably never going to use Fortune Favors the Brave. I wouldn't. And so for the second time you might want to use a League mechanic, then overloaded circuits, it comes in and doubles the cost and makes it kind of bad. So I prefer to just not have to spec out of it later on. Now, something some people like to do is come up and take Unwavering Vision, and that'll give you 20 skill points. The problem with it, I see, is that you have to spend 9 points traveling up to it. And most of these 9 points are not really that great. 4% quantity, given that you're going to be doing relatively not, I mean, they're not going to be juicy. They're going to be very early on maps. That's really not a lot of value. And then more map mod effect, same thing. Just not a lot of value on any of these points to get up here. It does give you 20 Atlas passive points to work with. So if instead of, for example, this is 12 points on this right-hand branch. So if you were to, instead of coming over here, if you were to just beeline straight to Unwavering Vision, you'd kind of suffer a little bit before you got there. But then once you got there, you'd immediately be able to spec into all this stuff on this right-hand branch. The problem I have with Unwavering Vision is it makes it so that Scarabs can't drop. And Scarabs, as it turns out, they were redesigned in 3.24, and they're a big part of the end game from the start to the finish. You're going to get a lot of Scarabs while doing the early post-campaign mapping, and so I just don't want to give those up. I think they're all really good, and I don't really see the justification in giving up Scarabs. You can do this. It's fine. You can disagree with me. But, you know, if you like Unwavering Vision, it's fine. I just don't really think it's all that good. I think giving up Scarabs is bad, so I would rather not do that. Then from this point, you know, you can just start to kind of spec into whatever mechanic you want. Maybe it's Expedition or Betrayal or whatever, and you will pick up a second Atlas passive tree fairly around this level. I think it's like 45 or 50 points. I can't remember. And then I do remember that the third one is at 100. So, you know, once you pick up your second one, spec it into whatever you want. You want to do essences, spec essences. You want to do Heist or Betrayal or Expedition or Betrayal and Expedition. That's what I'll be doing. Pick up that, but do try to make sure that you're emphasizing some of the map nodes while you're still progressing through your Atlas. Getting Shaping the Sky, Shaping the Mountains, and Shaping the World is all really good. Alright, Kirac is a really great mechanism for sustaining your maps, and so now I want to talk about the big dog, who I have positioned over here, position of prominence, and he's great for two real reasons. First off, he offers map missions for free. As we already discussed, you invest a lot of Atlas passive points into making him give you a much higher chance of giving you more missions whenever you complete a map, and he really has a lot of them available. He also likes to throw you map missions for maps you haven't already completed, so he's just really good at making it easy to get some like free juice, but also more Atlas progression. The second reason we like Kirac is he sells maps. I've already bought all of his maps, that's fine. The thing about Kirac is that he not only sells maps, he also refreshes that map sale tab whenever you open one of his missions. So watch, I'll open his mission, I just bought out his whole map tab, and now I'll open up his map tab. Oh my god, refreshed. So once you get into the red tier maps, his maps can get kind of expensive, but for the white tier and yellow tier maps, his maps are very cheap. You don't necessarily have to clear the board, but you definitely want to go through and make sure you buy all of the maps. I have full completion of this character, I don't know why I'm looking, but you want to make sure you go through and buy all of the maps that he has available that you haven't already completed and don't already have on hand. Buy those all up before you start a new mission, and then really invest in Kirac early on. He's a very limited time value. You know, he's only useful for the first few days of a league, but for the very beginning, he is the GOAT. Then he becomes worthless around day 3 or whatever, depends on your progression rate, maybe day 1 if you're insanely fast, but the point being, he's very good early on, really, really good and super cheap. So we love Kirac, he's the man. All right, so now when should you transition into an in-game Atlas tree? I kind of already mentioned this, but I think really it's once you've killed Eater and Exarch. That is when I would spec out of the super Kirac-oriented progression tree that I was showing before. Once you've killed Eater and Exarch and you've gotten those 2 Void Stones, you're ready to transition into more of an in-game farming setup to set up for fighting Uber, Elder, and Maven, really. Once you unlock that second Atlas passive tree setup, and then especially the third, you can kind of spec the second one into more of a farm strategy. You can do it with anything you like. of course, I'm going to lean in a Betrayal Expedition direction since I like Expedition and I really want to unlock all the Veiled modifiers in the first couple days of the League. And maybe I get lucky with some decently rolled Betrayal items and Recombinators to kind of get gear super juiced and up and running really quick. We've only had one league of experience of having multiple trees to play around with, but it is very nice. But I think that first tree, that map sustain and Kirac sustain tree, becomes pretty low value once you've gotten your 2 Void Stones, and at that point you can kind of transition it over to a different farming strategy, have 2 of them that you can bounce back and forth, maybe Essence on one, Expedition on the other. I think that's a pretty good idea. I'd be pretty happy if I were bouncing back and forth between Expedition and Essence to kind of keep things, keep my brain active as I'm grinding it out on day 2. All right, that pretty much covers it. Thank you for watching and have a good League start. Bye.